If you want to work on that while I'm talking, you can take advantage of it later on. Let's get going. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a fire hose, and my slides are online. The link is at the end, but we got a lot to cover. So this is, the idea behind this is, this talk is for either the person who was hired, or their job was changed, or you're looking to hire someone and you've never had security at your company before and you don't know where to go. I'm going to show you how to eat the elephant. And maybe you've made a huge mistake. About me, I am a senior security consultant at SAINTCON right now. I'm a penetration tester. I am the general manager for Hack West. I was the former manager of B-Side Salt Lake City. I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm a husband. I'm a father times 5. I play keyboards. I like crypto puzzles and hacker challenges. And the CFP for Hack West is open as of today. Go to cfp.hackwest.org. We'd like to get your talks and your ideas. We think many people have much to share. So, you're the new security person. Good job. How did you get there? Maybe you showed some initiative. Maybe you did an internal scan and you found open ports that shouldn't have been there. Maybe you alerted everyone to the phishing email. Maybe you went to a conference and your manager said, hey, you have an interest in security, want to be a security person. Or maybe you put together a training for the developers on the OWASP Top 10. Or maybe you said, I'd like to do security. And they said, yeah, we need someone. You don't have to hire someone new. There you are. Regardless, you did it. You're security. Congratulations. So, we're going to talk first about ignorance. With all things that we're new at, there's a first level of ignorance where you don't know that you are ignorant of something. Next level, you don't know there are things you don't know, and you have no way of finding out. You don't know what you don't know. That's where most people start with security. Next, you don't know something, and you don't know how to learn more. So you know there's something missing, and you don't know where to go to get it. Next, you might know something, and you have resources to get more information. And the highest level of ignorance, you think you might know something. The other side of that is competence. You know you don't do it well. Oh, you don't know you don't do it well. You do know you don't do it well. Or you do it well and you got to think about it. And lastly, you don't even have to think about it and you do it all the time. With information security, you're always going to be on the ignorant side. Except that there are things you do not know and there's no way of finding out. So you try to learn as much as you can of everything to eliminate those blind spots. One way to get a real head start on information security is using a playbook. I call them playbooks. You got the NIST 800, ISO 2700 or 2300, and the SANS 20. Troy, or Jupiter, is giving a talk, I think tomorrow, on the SANS 20. This is top 10 critical information security controls, I think it is. It's for sale now, you can pay for it. There's also HIPAA, PCI, and FISMA, and these are not really playbooks. These are very low bars. That's if you want to do this kind of business, healthcare, credit cards, you have to meet that level of security. The other ones, NIST, ISO, and SANS 20, those are really, they cover everything in your infrastructure. Those are the playbooks you want to go by, not PCI or HIPAA. If you go by HIPAA, you're going to hit some of the things on the other playbooks. If you hit the playbooks, you're going to flood HIPAA and PCI and FISMA. But that's a lot of work, so we're going to talk about that. This is what they look like. You have a list of controls and how they recommend you meet that. You're going to copy each line of these to a spreadsheet. It'll be a big spreadsheet. And then you're going to say, where are we today? On the spreadsheet, you're going to have the control. What they say is advanced. Right now, are we doing it? And I like to color code it green for yes, red for no, and yellow for partially. What would it take to do it if we're not doing it yet? And when do we want to do it, and any notes about it, like who can we talk to help us? So when you're looking at the list, you look at what's your low-hanging fruit, and what is the elephant. With all these things, you have to look at it from this point of view first. I get this from John Strand, and this has been running through my head for months. If you can't detect an inside actor, you have no security program. What would that mean? If a hacker gets into your network, what will they look like? An employee. They're going to look like an employee, so they don't stand out. So you've got, in your security program, you've got to be able to tell if an inside actor is misbehaving, because that's what the attacker will look like. They'll try to look like everyone else. So you've got to watch for inside bad actors. Some of the things on the list are going to look simple. The first item on the SANS Top 20 is application whitelisting. In theory, that's easy to do. But if you're the new security guy and you say to the management, we're going to do application whitelisting, we're going to control what you can run, what you can't run, you're going to have a very hard time. So, the low-hanging fruit. You're going to look at that list and identify what you can knock out today with no additional headcount and no additional budget. That is your low-hanging fruit, and that should be your marching orders until you finish those items. The opposite of low-hanging fruit. You need to know what your company, what the crown jewels are, what makes you different from all your competitors. And it may not be obvious to you, may not even be obvious to your management, but they need to know what makes them different from their competitors. You talk to all the management, all C-levels, everyone who might have a stake in that game, and find out what they think the crown jewels are, and then you defend that. An example is Michael Dell. Those of you who are old enough to remember back when Dell first came out and they had those boxes that had the cow prints on them, they would ship out, you could get a PC from Dell and you'd had everything you needed. You had the PC, the keyboard, the mouse, you had the cables, you had a printer or a scanner, whatever you bought with it, and they all came at the same time, and a monitor. And at the time, if you were going to buy a machine, you had to go to IBM, and you bought a CPU and a keyboard and a mouse, and then a monitor, and then you went back for a printer, they didn't have one, you go back for a scanner because they didn't have that. Dell sent it all to you at the same time. And they were crushing the market. And after about 2 or 3 years, Michael Dell did an interview, and they said, what makes you so different? How are you able to crush the market? And he said, oh, we worked out with the shipping, with all these different vendors, how long it takes to fulfill an order, and when you buy it from us, we work it out with them, so it all arrives to you at the same time. They're the first ones to do that, to coordinate through the disparate parties. Within a month, they were no longer crushing the market. He had shown their crown jewels. So you need to identify that. Once you know what they are, how could those jewels, how could that, what makes you different, be compromised? The playbook that you're looking at, how does that protect that? In the example I just gave with Michael Dell, that'd be training. You talk to management, and you talk to PR, and you talk to HR, what we say and what we don't say about our business. That could fall under security. If you show them you care about that, you're adding more value beyond just securing the servers. When you know what that crown jewel is, that should be your highest priority. Identify what budget's going to be required and what manpower will be required to secure that crown jewel. So there's your low-hanging fruit and your top of the game. So going back to the playbook. For each item, you're going to identify how much money or how many heads you'd need to do any single thing. If it's in budget, that should be a short to a medium-term goal. If it's not in budget, it should be a medium to a long-term goal, and you need to have a conversation about budget, which we'll get there. Today, I want to talk about some good short-term goals that you can do right now. So, what can we do today? We can have increased security awareness. Make sure that everyone in the company knows that they are part of security. It's not just you, it's the whole company is responsible for security. And they need to be empowered to act on things. They need to know if someone is in the building that doesn't have a badge, they can say, where's your badge? let's go to reception and get you a visitor badge. And if they don't have one, you can take them to front and say, get security, someone's in here and they aren't a visitor. They need to know they can do that. You're going to get a lot of false positives. You want to say thank you for all the false positives, because they won't always be false, and you want to make sure the person who feels comfortable talking to security continues talking to security. You don't tell them they're stupid. You don't say, stop coming to me. You train them on how to eliminate false positives. You can help the developers. You can train them on a secure development lifecycle. Train them on OWASP, because they want to have fun. They want to do good, but they're just awkward. I mean, look at them. Those developers. You can train HR and legal on information disclosure, on espionage, on policy violation consequence, a secure hiring process, a secure dismissal process. Have a discussion with them on how you're going to do it securely to making sure no one has access to things they shouldn't have longer than they should, no one has access before they should. If someone is violating a policy, what's going to happen? If someone is committing espionage, what's going to happen? Talk about that before it happens, and that will increase security awareness. All of these things should be short-term and mid-term goals, because I haven't said anything that requires any money or people. This is all one person can do. Next thing, you could segment the network. Anything that does not need to touch the internet should not touch the internet. It should be broken off to its own LAN network. Like Lost was saying this morning, I wouldn't use a VLAN anymore. It's got to be a physical, different network, different routers, not just all within your Juniper firewall. You want to make sure your servers, your file shares, your printers do not need to be online. They don't need to touch the internet. To do that, you would need routers, switches, a next-gen firewall if you have one. That should be short-term, maybe mid-term. Next thing you can do is VPNs. You shouldn't allow anyone outside to get into the network publicly. If anyone's at home and they want to get to anything inside, they should VPN. It's not hard to set up. To do that, you're going to need a beefy, hardened box with multiple NIC cards. If you can get a big, strong box, buy some NIC cards, you could have a VPN box. That should be a short-term goal. Next thing we could do today, this is the worst one, the logs. Oh, the logs. You need to learn grep, awk, sed, and regex. You need to be able to munge through miles and miles and miles of logs quickly. You're going to set up a centralized logging point. I recommend syslog ng. It is free. You need a Linux box. Windows can talk to it. You set it up so everything can talk to it, no one can edit it. So you're laying down paint for all activity on all servers. Error logs, activity logs. If it's Linux, you can copy your bash commands all to a centralized server that no one can see and no one can touch. Then you can grep, awk, and sed through that to find anything out of the ordinary. You want to make sure that box has a lot of storage. Like I was just saying, the logs are the paint on the floor you want to look at when someone breaks into the store. This is a scenario where the power's out, you put down paint in front of the front door of the store, someone comes in to thieve something, you have their footprints. That's what logs are. You want to get in the habit of reviewing them, and you want to look at them regularly, and you got to say, could you automate that? If you could have something that was reading logs that came in and matched against regex, and then maybe it could send you an email when it sees something, right there, you're standing on the edge of a SIM. That's what a SIM is. It's watching your logs, watching activity. When it sees something that you say, when you define it, it sends you an email. That's a SIM. Logging should be short-term, mid-term, and long-term. What else could we do? We could do 2FA on all Linux boxes and all Windows boxes. 2FA, second factor authentication. Windows now has the option to enable 2FA on all boxes, workstations, and servers. On Linux, you can use Google Authenticator. I learned how to do this a month ago. Now all my servers, you go to SSH, you have to put in your Google Authenticator code. No passwords, just Google Authenticator. Yay. And this should be short-term because Windows is enabled and you can add it on Linux. What else? You got to think about how your organization is going to assess risk. Talk to management and find out what they think the risks are. You document that somewhere with a score. And the way I calculate this is how most SISPs are trained. Likelihood times impact equals risk. If you do like a scale to 1 to 10, what's the difference between a 6 and a 7? Don't know. I like to go with 1, 2, and 3. 3 is critical, 2 is medium, 1 is low. If your risk is a 3, address it right now. If it's 2, talk about it. You go on to identify any mitigations you have to those risks and then change the score based on that. Take feedback from everyone and record it. You're going to add it to the list, and this shows them that you are making it available, you're taking input from everyone, you're being proactive, and there's more value from you towards the company. You should be doing this and constantly updating your risk assessments on paper, your spreadsheets. Next, physical security. If we're talking about doors, we should be adding card readers. And if you're doing a construction project, talk about doing man traps. That's where you go in one door, the second door is locked, you can't get through the second door until you're authenticated, and the first door locked behind you. So if you're a bad actor, you're stuck, and you can stay there as long as they need until the cops come. Do cameras. Cameras should cover where a bad guy would be if he's doing a bad thing. So general workstation areas, no individuals, but the general area. Paths to and from the data center, and doors on entry and exit. Now for cameras, you need a dedicated server to run the camera network. It needs to have a lot of storage and backups. In the beginning, it's going to be a big bite for the software and for the cameras. So when you're ready to add cameras, you get the software and cameras on the doors, or a camera on the data center, or one camera over the general work area, as much as your budget can handle. And then next year you add another camera, and next year another camera. And you plan to add one camera until all the areas are covered. So there's a big outlay at the beginning, and then a little bit every year after that. Badges. There's two kinds of badges we have. We have an ID badge, has a picture, maybe the company logo, and we have one for the door. They should not be the same badge. If your door badge has your picture or your company logo on it, and you lose it, someone now has a badge, and they can go try it at whatever company is on the badge. If it's also the access card, they're in. So you separate them, and you tell your employees to keep them on different rings or whatever, or different clips. So if they lose the picture, they know the company, but they can't get in the door. If they lose the access card, they can get a door, but they don't know where it is. If you put them on the same card, you're just giving them access to your building. And this is where you empower your employees. If they don't see the ID badge, they should ask who the person is, why they're there, and send them to the front desk to get their badge. If they're not legitimate, call security. That's you. Have them question anyone without a badge and make them feel empowered that they can do that, and they shouldn't have to say, I was told to do this. They can just say, hey, I'm part of security. I don't know who you are. Where's your badge? Next up, policies. There can be a lot of policies. Company policy, information security policy, access policy, approved usage policy, data retention policy, clean desk policy, and many more. It's easy to have many, many, many policies, and a lot of the playbooks will require you to have at least a couple of them. You're going to work with the legal department because they're going to want to write these. They want to have them legally sound so they can have teeth for violation of them. The policies need to have teeth. If someone's doing something egregiously wrong, there should be a consequence. You could make policy violation a part of job review, bonus reviews. If someone is doing something wrong, they shouldn't be allowed to keep working there. One challenge you might have with that, I was at a place where I wanted to say something that you treat your laptop like your wallet, and you shouldn't leave it on the front seat of the car. And I wrote in the policy on my draft, if you lose your laptop, it could be fireable. It's a fireable offense. And they came back and said, no, you can't do that. I said, why not? And they said, because the CEO has lost his laptop twice from his car. And they wouldn't write a policy that would fire the CEO. So we had to take the teeth out of that and say, you'd have to go under a review if that happens. They got rid of the CEO. Hopefully now they've added it. I'm not there anymore. To do that, you want to train and work with HR. They need to know how to respond to violations and what to do with someone who is found violating that or is found doing data exfiltration, espionage. If someone is stealing physical property from the company, if someone is not observing the no tailgating policy at the doors. Make policy violation a part of reviews. And like I said already, some violations should cost the job. Policies need to be living documents, meaning they need to be reviewed and updated. And when you update it, you need to keep track of what you changed. Look at me, I'm one step ahead of myself. Next thing we've got to think about is not something to do right now, but it's something to plan for. Those are audits and pen tests. Yeah. The audits should not be adversarial. Auditors are not trying to bust you and get you in trouble. They're saying, you say you want to live by this standard, this playbook, and we're going to check you against this playbook. PCI, HIPAA, maybe it's NIST, maybe it's ISO. Most auditors won't audit against SANS. I think they should be able to put that together. But they're just going to check based on what you say you're doing, whether you're doing it or not. The easiest way to do that is to show them your spreadsheet. Show them what you're doing or what you're not doing or what you are partially doing. Because you don't need to have to be doing everything. That grammar's wrong. You don't need to be doing everything. You don't need to have all green and be nailing everything. What you do need to do is consider everything. You need to have thought about everything on that list. So if you're not doing it, you can say, we're not doing this right now. We have a plan to do it in the next 6-8 months. And auditors will be okay with that. They'll want to know next year that you got it done. Or you say, we're not going to do this because that's not a concern. We don't have that kind of data. And they say, great. They want to know that you've thought about everything on that list. The easiest way to do that is to show them your list. And then there's nothing confrontational about that. Now, the auditor is going to do their job. They're going to audit everything. You need to understand what their job is and help them. They're going to go through every item on that list and make sure you've done it. They're going to nitpick and make sure they've done everything, and they're going to keep looking until they have found something wrong. That's their job. So one way you can make things go better with the auditor, show them something wrong. Show them something that they can ding you on that you'll get fixed in the future, and they've met that requirement. Once they go through everything else, they're done. What's so painful? Next up is the pen tests, the evil hackers. There's lots of kinds of penetration tests. There is application penetration testing, network, external network and internal network, physical penetration testing, social engineering, lots of different kinds of tests. Most people are required annually to do an external network penetration test or application penetration test. That is the bottom of the barrel. That's the bare minimum. It's similar to an audit in that the penetration tester is going to do as much as they can to find as much as they can, make sure they can find something. Findings that they show you are not attacks and shouldn't be attacks, and your job should not be in jeopardy if they find something. I've done penetration tests where afterwards, when we're reviewing the report, they are fighting tooth and nail to make sure the highs are reduced down to a medium, because they're going to be fired if there's a high, and that is wrong. That is sad, and that is not a place you want to work. This doesn't speak to whether you're doing your job or not, because there's many things that can stop you from eliminating highs. Headcount, time. If it's just you by yourself, It can be very hard to get the developers to eliminate bugs. It can be very hard to get the hardware to upgrade, to get the patches. But they should not be attacks. What they should be is low-hanging fruit you can fix quickly. When it comes back in a penetration test report, you can go to management and say, we've been holding off on this because we didn't have the money. Look, it's a finding. We're going to be in trouble with the auditors if we don't fix this quickly. And there's a way into the budget talk. You want to make sure you're using a reputable agency. Ask around. Don't go for the most expensive and don't go for the cheapest. Your people might be driving for budget. Don't go for the cheapest. You're not going to have a good penetration test from the person who's doing the bare minimum or a puppy mill. You're probably going to be doing your audits and pen tests at least once per year. So you want to start putting that on your calendar now. Why isn't Bart moving? And plan on that probably a year from when you decide you're going to be doing it. Next is going to be data retention. You have this conversation with your IT department about how long you're going to hold on to things. Talk about backups, logs, email, and legal. You want to talk to legal about, ask them, how long should we keep email? Because email is quite often discoverable evidence. So if something happens, if someone comes to you and says, hey, there's a problem, if there's no email, that can't go into evidence. Does that make sense? Most legal departments at places I've worked want that. They want no emails. So no email is saved, no email is stored. That's going to be midterm to long term, talking about data retention. Next thing you can do right now is you can spot the Fed. You can go develop a relationship with the cops and the FBI. Talk to the InfraGard people. They have relationships with FBI, and FBI are the people who will be investigating if there is a breach that has to be disclosed publicly. You don't want to call them once you've been breached. You want to talk to them now so they know who you are when you're not stressed out and there's not an incident. So take your local Fed to lunch. Tell them who you are, what you do, and what kind of data you have, and who you might have to disclose to if something wrong happens. Talk to them now, not once you're hacked. Once you're hacked, understand when you engage the FBI or the cops, whoever, they have an interest in finding the perpetrator. You have an interest in getting services restored. Those are not the same thing. So when you have to go to the FBI, you have to manage them. They want to find the guy who did it. You want to get services back and find out what data was lost and fix that. So you have to manage two things at that point. So that should be a midterm goal. Once you get your feet on the ground and you got things in motion, then go talk to the feds and take them to lunch and have a good time. Next up is budget and headcount, doing things on the cheap. Look at the playbook and go back and look at the things that we couldn't do because they're not in the budget right now. When you're hiring, you want to hire to fill gaps in the skill set. You do not hire yourself. Don't replace your skills with another one of you. The areas where you can hire someone would be network security, application security, forensics, governance, risk management and compliance, and red team. You don't hire yourself, you hire one of these other skills that you don't have. You're augmenting the skill set of the security team. When you're talking about the money, you're talking about hardware and software. If you're doing security on the cheap, you're using open source software and hardware on eBay. You can find a lot of stuff. Make sure you wipe the hard drives, everything comes in, restore them to factory resets, factory basics, baselines, patch them up, then put them out. But you can get things on the cheap on eBay and use open source software as much as possible. That's doing security on the cheap. There's a lot of tools to help you do munging through logs and setting up pfSense, or if I always like with my syslog servers, I like to put Splunk on the syslog server, so I'm not munging through gigs and gigs and gigs of data, so they will have to charge me. I'm just putting a putting a dashboard on the logs. When you have more budget, develop a relationship with the VARs. Those are value-added resellers. We have some around here. One of them was a sponsor here, CompuNet. There's also Optiv. That was Accuvant and Fishnet. They came together. They sell hardware. They sell software. They sell it in bulk, like Costco. Think Costco for hardware and software. Because they sell a lot of it, they can sell it cheaper. So talk to your VARs, and anytime you need to buy anything, call them first and say, I need to buy this hardware or this software. Can you help me? Talk to the VARs when you have budget to buy stuff. That's going to be a mid to a long-term goal. And you need to have that conversation because you cannot do this job without having a budget. You can start without a budget, but you can't do it long-term without a budget. You need to have this conversation. Probably, whoever put you in this position, they know that. They don't want to talk about it yet. They'll talk about it when you proved your worth, say 6 months. That's a midterm goal. The last thing we got to talk about in security, in eating this elephant, is you. You need to get training because, like we said, there's that skill set that you don't have. You need to augment it with someone else. Start right now building that skill set within yourself. Get the training. There's books, there's videos, there's certifications. I think I'm getting ahead of myself already. Certifications. There's SANS offers many great certifications. They cost a lot, $5,000, $6,000. You either fly out and you drink from that water hose there for a week and then you take the test, or you do a training on your own time where you do things online. They send you the materials and you watch the videos, then you go take the test. There's also a lot of trainings that don't have certifications, but certifications are going to help you so you know, you test yourself and you know that you got the material, but also it's good on your resume. Your certifications, your CISP, CEH, security, the GSEC, GCIH, there's a lot of the G ones, those are from SANS. Another way to get training is conferences. There's SAINTCON, where you are today. Besides SLC, I know personally it's been going for a couple years here in Salt Lake. There's Hack West. I know it's going to happen next March. And there's Open West. That happens in the summer, and that's more about development, but more and more security is happening there. Go to conferences and go to these talks. Find talks online. B-Sides talks have been on YouTube for the last 3 years. All of our talks going back to Jason Street, the first keynote when we were at the Sheraton. All those talks are online right now. Go back and look at past talks from here. You'll find local people, you'll see people you can network with when you see people at the con. Say hi, ask questions, maybe get help. A lot of people who have been doing this for a while will 1099. They can do consulting. They can do a penetration test. They can help you with an audit. They can help you get ready for an audit. Regional conferences, there's Black Hat, which is expensive. Again, $5,000-$6,000 just for the conference. No trainings besides that. Besides Vegas, that can be free, $20 or whatever you want to donate. DEF CON is around $300, and Cactus Con down in Phoenix. I'm not sure how much they charge, but they're down in Phoenix. I haven't been yet. I plan hopefully next year. Nationally, there are too many to list. Every weekend, there's a B-Sides event somewhere in the world. At least once or twice per month, there's a B-Sides event in North America. They're everywhere, all the time. If you want to start going to speaking at cons, look at the B-Sides events and submit to ones that are roundabout. Your employer might send you if you are accepted to talk, because you represent the company. And Utah Sec. Utah Sec, I'm the secretary for this group. We meet the first Thursday of every month. If you go to utahsec.org, you can find information on there. We meet in Riverton, then we meet at the Hackerspace, then we meet at UVU. Then we go back to Riverton, the Hackerspace, and UVU. First Thursday of every month. It's an umbrella group with different security chapters, local chapters, and they provide content and speakers, and we meet every month. There's an email list. I'll send you emails, and there's a Twitter account, and I'll tweet. Oh, if you're new into security, get on Twitter. Some people say, oh, it's for the old people, or it's social media that never really took off. I agree. But security is on Twitter. It's something that the whole industry, they created accounts a long time ago, and they're still there, and they're still active. Get on Twitter, start following InfoSec thought leaders and people who are out moving and shaking, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll network, you'll get resources, you'll see links to articles, latest and greatest, 0 days, vulnerability disclosures. Twitter is where security is happening online. Go figure. But it's very important that you maintain a work-life balance. It's easy when you're the security person to not sleep at night because you know it's going to be your head on the line. So you need to set boundaries. I work from this time to that time, and then I have my family. Or I have my own interest. Then I go home and I solder stuff. Or I do my Wi-Fi hacking. Whatever you want to do. You set your own lab up, and you're starting to do penetration testing in your lab, so you can start getting that on your resume. In the morning, do work. At night, do family. That is very, very important. It's easy to get burned out, and you should not. Everything we've said so far, rinse and repeat. You do it over and over. Go through the playbook. See where you are now. Update everything. Look at the risk management. How you're assessing risk. What's new? What's changed? What is no longer a concern? What's a new concern? Review it. Have meetings so you show you're reviewing it. Look at the policies. Make changes to the hiring process or the firing process. Do another training for security awareness. Do a phishing training. Bring the auditors in. Do a penetration test. Do a physical penetration test. Don't tell anyone. When do they ask for the badges? Do it over and over. This is how you eat the elephant of security. Over and over, doing what you can, then doing it again, and then doing it again, and then doing it again. Are there any questions? Was that a question or just a wave? At the very beginning? "76 slides. And this one is not online. Well, Chris is working on that. Any other questions about what I talked about? One thing I didn't mention is mentors. Finding a mentor is very, very important. That helps with the work-life balance. When they have a better perspective, they can tell you when you're reaching too far and you're going to hurt yourself. A mentor can guide you in your career. A mentor can help you solving the challenges. A mentor can help you with the conversations you have to have and you're scared about budget or headcount, or you found something wrong and you got to go to your boss and say they screwed something up. A way to find mentors, Twitter. There's also, I believe, infosecmentors.com. It's something I mentioned at the closing address at B-Sides in March. I can't remember what that. If you search for InfoSec Mentors, you can sign up to find a mentor or be a mentor. I signed up to be a mentor, and no one has emailed me yet. They must be able to sense my imposter syndrome all the way through the internet. It's very important to find a mentor. Find a friend, someone you can trust, who you can commiserate with. You can talk about how bad it is when they don't listen to you. Mentors are very important to have. Recommendations for who to follow on Twitter. Well, I start with my heroes. They're the people who I bring as keynotes for the conferences I run. The first one is Jason Street, Kevin Johnson, Dave Kennedy, Grifter. If you find any of those people, you'll start seeing some links. Follow the people who are following them, who are following lots of people. As you start seeing stuff, people will retweet one another. Follow them. When people are responding, look at the conversation. If they sound like they're reputable or they're just blathering, don't follow them. But if they know what they're talking about, follow them. Personally, I have, like something that Neil was saying this morning, I'm trying to raise awareness, and I am trying as much as I can to retweet only women in InfoSec. I'm trying to use what little platform I have to give them as much more voice as I can. Yeah, you can take a look at me. I'm following a lot of people, a lot of noise, but there's some real people I'm following that have value. Leslie Carhart, she's a huge one. Yeah, take a look at my list. Take a look at Neil's list. Kevin Johnson, take a look at his list. He's Secure Ideas, his handle. Any other questions? Back to the last slide. Come on, go, 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 go. Oh my gosh, so slow. Nope, keep going. There, oh, no! There it is. Slideshare.net/secret/ capital N 9, capital F, M, B, capital D, capital I, capital O, E8, capital F, capital Q, HY. Or I think if you go to my LinkedIn, because I put it on SlideShare, it's also on my LinkedIn. Yeah, take a picture. All my slides are up there. Any other questions? Did anyone solve the cipher? Okay, well then come get them. The cipher was, do you like crypto puzzles? I do. Come get an Oreo at the front of the stage. These are cookie butter Oreos. They're the best. Last night I tried the apple pie Oreos. Those are the worst. These are the best. Come have an Oreo. Thank you. Enjoy the con.